Following is the 674th regular Arizona Racing Commission meeting held October 10th, 2019 at 1110 West Washington, Suite 250, Phoenix, Arizona 85007. It's 10.
Hey Jake, could I get you to just close the door real quick before you sit down? All right, good morning. I'd like to call to order the 674th regular Arizona Racing Commission meeting. It's October 10th, 2019. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Good morning. Commissioner Coolidge, absent. Commissioner Garay,
Present.
Commissioner Lawless,
Here.
Commissioner McClintock.
Here.
Thank you. And as a public service, please silence or turn all cell phones off. If you must take a call, please be courteous to those around you and take the conversation out into the hall. Thank you.
The first items up is B, executive sessions for 1 and 2. I don't know if we need to do those now or if we would be okay pushing those to the end.
I'd like to push it to the end. Can you turn your speaker on?
It's on, I think it is 6.
All right, we're going to move item B, 1 and 2 to the end. There's no objections. The next item is C, action items, approval of interstate racetrack simulcast signal agreements. There's going to be multiple ones here. And actually, I do want to kind of ask a couple of questions and I have a couple of things to say. The law that has brought this about is a duly enacted law, correct? It's the law of the land right now. And I do know each one of us commissioners, and each one has it in front of them, the one that they did. I've got mine right here. And it does state, when I did my oath of office, that I would bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them all against the laws of the state of Arizona. I mean, we're going to obey the laws of the land. We don't have any choice but to obey the laws of the land. This bill is the law of the land right now. Until a judge or somebody tells us it's not, we have to enact by it. And at this point in time, I'd like to call for executive session regarding these items. If there's a second for
On
that.
C1?
C1, this is for the Simon.
That's the interstate.
Excuse me. Can you put the microphones down a bit to where they can hear you? Because I'm
Okay.
getting word
I
from
think
them.
Roy, C1 is just the same contracts between,
Arizona and Turf.
yeah, I think you need to do it
Okay,
for
for-
2.
I will do it for 2 then, okay. So we can go ahead and do C1A, Arizona Downs to Turf. Is there any discussion on that?
No,
None?
No.
And I do not believe anyone signed up for,
I have a couple on received.
Dave Arthur signed up for, I think for C, probably 2, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I see nothing else, so I'll entertain a motion for the Arizona Downs to Turf.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless,
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock.
Yes.
Okay, this motion carries.
All right. Now, item C, 1B, Turf Paradise to Arizona Downs. Any discussion? No one signed up for this item.
I move we approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say nay.
Thank you, Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless,
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Now, regarding item C2, I would like to move that we go into executive session for some advice from our counsel.
Please wait. Please wait.
You can stay
Please
here.
wait.
We're going to leave.
Okay, I need a motion on that.
I made the motion.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. McClintock seconds. So Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless,
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock.
Yes.
Okay, we are recessing the first open session and the time is 10:04 a.m. Following is the second open session of the 674th regular Arizona Racing Commission meeting taking place on October 10, 2019 at 1110 West Washington, Suite 250, Phoenix, Arizona 85007. You ready?
I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Madam Secretary, can you please call roll?
Okay, time is 10:35 a.m. Commissioner Garay,
Here.
Commissioner Lawless.
Here.
Commissioner McClintock.
Here.
Thank you. And again, as a reminder, please silence or turn all cell phones off. Thank you, sir.
And just a reminder to all, we did have one person that has signed up for item C, which we're about to, which I believe Dave Author, you said was for C2. If you do come up to speak and you've not signed up, we will ask that after you are done speaking, that you would sign up on the sheet that is right there on the end of the table. And I just want to make sure, can everyone hear me? You're the furthest back, so you're saying okay? That's good. Excellent. All right. Dave, did you want to?
Please. Please do not move the microphone. Sorry. Dave Author for Arizona Downs. I don't know if I'm going to be saying something to convince you what you've already decided to do because you've already had your executive meeting, or if I'm going to try to talk you out of what you've already decided to do. But I'm going to go anyway, and I'm hoping that what I have to say resonates with you. The thing that we're talking about at this point, the agenda item, is the approvals of the contracts. And as I indicated at the last meeting, which was the emergency meeting, when all of you were in the car, and you probably heard half of what we said, and you guys were cut off and we were cut off. And it's simply this, that we are in favor of you approving contracts with all of these providers so long as those providers are complying with the new law. Consequently, we have discussed, and we have written to Monarch, and that's the elephant in the room, and asked if they intend to comply with the law, which has been passed and signed by the governor and went into effect in the last couple of days in August, and they indicated they would not, and that they intended to wait to see what the judge said. So procedurally, Monarch filed a lawsuit to stop the enforcement of the law about 2 weeks before the law was to be enforced. And the judge, the federal judge, in a footnote in his order said, I realize you want me to rule on this thing before the law goes into effect in 2 weeks, but you didn't give me enough time to do it. You waited until the last minute, and now I'm not quoting the judge, but I'm telling you what he meant. You waited until the last minute to file it, and now you're asking me to rush this out before we get the state of Arizona, Pat Irvin, where did he go? Pat, a chance to respond before we rule on the Arizona Downs' application to intervene, before I do anything. I'm not going to do it. So he gave the Arizona Racing Commission and the state of Arizona the right to enforce its law because there was no reason and nobody there to stop it. So what we are asking, as Commissioner Gore said earlier, is enforce the law. And the law says that Monarch and all signal providers have to offer their signal to all of the permittees in the state of Arizona. They have indicated to us they are not going to do that. That's enough for us to tell you that they are violating the law and you should enforce it. And the way to enforce it, in our judgment, is to look at this list of contracts and say, I believe I have the list complete: Laurel Park, Los Angeles County Fair, Santa Anita, Fresno, Gulfstream, Meadowlands, Golden Gate, Monarch Content Readers Cup, and Del Mar, all provided by Monarch Content Management. Those contracts, whether for us or for Turf Paradise, should be denied unless they comply with the contract, with the new statute. And that is your right. We can't ask the division to do it. We can't ask some attorney general to do it. The only folks that can do it is the only folks to do it are the Arizona Racing Commission, and that's who you guys are. So that's what we ask you to do. If you want to do it conditionally until we get the final word from these guys in the next day or so, we don't really care. But ultimately, if they're not going to comply with the statute, these contracts should be rejected, whether to Arizona Downs or to Turf Paradise.
I do have a question, and this would be, I think Buzz, you've signed up to speak as well. This would be for all, and please do not take this as which way I'm leaning or not, but as I mentioned earlier, you know, I've spent 10 and a half years in the Navy. I believe in upholding the law and any orders that are said to me. The one thing I was struggling with when I was going through all the contracts, and yes, I was printing them out and reading each one. If you want to be put to sleep, I advise reading these. There was something that really struck out to me on each one was the dates. I'm looking at some here. There was one signed October 1st, 2014, another one signed November 1st, 2018, June 19th, 2018. All of these were signed before the law went into effect, which I believe was August 27th, 2019. So I went and looked at the law and did not see anything in the law that said previous contracts that were signed before this law went into effect are under this new law. What are your thoughts on contracts signed before the law went into effect?
Well, I think that's a question of retroactivity of the law, and there's no basis to say that it would not be retroactive. It isn't enforced immediately. If you sign a contract tomorrow that says, you know, pick anything, pick something that says I can smoke marijuana in my backyard, or I can sell you marijuana, and then the law comes in and says marijuana is illegal, or pick anything. I can sell gold out of my backyard, and I'm going to sell it to the people until next year or the next 3 years, and there's a statute that comes in and says you can't sell gold out of your backyard. You can only sell it in a register something or other, or some sort of securities deal that Jay would be more familiar with. This is not, this law, and you can ask your counsel, is effective as of the 26th, and if they're in violation, they're in violation, and you can't look back and say, oh, wait a second, here's some, we're going to renew, this is a renewal contract. I mean, there's so many ways that these guys are trying to dodge the obvious language of the contract, and that sounds like that's one of them that you in particular are trying to understand and see if it's effective.
And I'm struggling because, you know, in the contracts, I also read them, there was two sections, one stating that they would agree or abide by the state and the whatever commission's rules and regulations. And then there was one where Monarch says they will agree by the state and regulations of that state. So
that's actually a better answer than I just gave you. I haven't read the contracts, the reason I say that, and that is as between the parties, as between the contracting parties, if they say it's a 2-year contract, then it's a 2-year contract or a 3-year contract. But as to two parties contracting to say that what we are doing is legal for the next 3 years, they can't do it. They can't trump the statute. Any other questions of me? Thank you.
you see a Buzz signed up on the one in the back.
Yes, sir. I saw that.
Buzz Austin, Church Paradise. Commissioners, the things that Mr. Arthur talked about have some interest to everybody here, I suspect. I know that there has been a substantial amount of negotiations between Monarch and Arizona Downs, and Turf's been involved, and I don't know where that's going to end up, but it's ongoing. After this lawsuit was filed, Arizona Downs made a motion to intervene in the lawsuit that Monarch filed. We've got nothing to do with the lawsuit, and that motion was denied. There's a hearing set in the litigation for the 30th of this month, and to determine whether there's going to be an injunction issued in joining and staying this pending the outcome of the lawsuit. This doesn't just affect Arizona Downs, it affects Turf, it affects Rito, and we're about 2 weeks away from knowing whether the federal court is going to enjoin the implementation of this law. I suspect I suspect they're going to do that, given the nature of the litigation. I can't predict the outcome, but to say that this law should go in effect with that now, notwithstanding the fact we're going to know in about 10 days whether it be state or not, can cause substantial damage to everyone involved. And it's just, it just seems to me to be something that's kind of premature. There is nothing that says that you have to begin to implement the law now. You will have to begin to implement the law when you're satisfied that it is the law. Right now, there's a question, and that question is before the federal court. So I would just urge you to continue to wait and see what happens, and so that if the law becomes the law in 10 days, 2 weeks from now, well, then we'll all have to figure out how to deal with it. But just to step back a little bit and talk about this law and what we're facing. If this law is implemented, and Scott DeRudy has stood before this microphone and told you without reservation that he wasn't going to do business with Arizona Downs. That's a decision he made. And he said if given the choice, this is before the law passed, he said if given the choice to sell to none or sell to all, he would take selling to none. And that was what he said, and it's pretty clear to me that's what he meant. I know that there's active negotiations going on with Monarch and Turf and Arizona Downs. Monarch had proposed, as I understand it, I wasn't in on the meetings, but as I understand it, proposed to give a number of OTVs in Maricopa County to Arizona Downs and some up there in Yavapai County, and it wasn't good enough for Arizona Downs. They said no. So I'd like to see,
Can I just, I would like to stick to the subject really kind of at hand. We're talking about a law that my understanding is, and well, it's not understanding, it is currently the law until either a judge tells us it's not the law or continue on. So help me understand, this is a law that's in place right now. Help me understand why I should not be abiding by the law. And why should I approve a contract that maybe is not approved, given the signal to all OTVs, or why is given the signal to one track and all its OTVs and not the other? This is where I'm really struggling. I took an oath of office to uphold the law, and this is where I'm struggling. I've got to uphold the law, but I also don't want to cause damage to the horse racing industry.
Yeah, and that's the point. You're correct in everything you said. It is the law, and it's in effect now. And depending on what happens 2 weeks from now, it may still be the law. We'll know something then. But the point I'm making is I think that you have it within your discretion and in the interest of your duty to the industry as well as your duty to the rules and regulations of the commission would be to put this off and perhaps set a special meeting for the 1st of November, I guess it would be, because we should know something then. And in the meantime, you're gonna hurt Arizona Downs, you're gonna hurt Turf Paradise, and you're gonna hurt Riedo very badly. But everything you said, I can't quarrel with the things you said. I'm just simply saying that we will know something in 2 weeks, and I guess I guess that's about as best I can do in an answer to your question.
So you think the judge will rule on the 30th from the bench?
That's what he said. He set it down. He set it down for a determination on the 30th this month.
No, but the oral argument.
Oh, pardon me. Oral argument on.
Right, so we may not
So we
even.
blow through the Breeders' Cup with no Breeders' Cup in Arizona?
I suppose.
That sounds like a disaster to me.
I was going to see this one.
Sure.
No, I didn't. Oh, he's not. He's talking to council.
Am I timing that? Am I timing that?
forgot to say, this is important. I want to hear from you.
That's-
I think you want to hear from you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in any event, yes, if that happens, then I guess there'll be no Breeders' Cup and whatever might come in during the time that this was, that there was a hold on the Monarch sales. So again, I would just urge you in consideration of the industry and the impact on this industry. And this is something I guess the judge will have to take into consideration, but in my legal career, I have never seen a law quite like this. I've never seen a law that would deal, and this is what's going to, the judge will be considering, dealing with interstate commerce, where the law of Arizona tells a company in California that if they want to do business in Arizona, they got to do business with everybody that sells furniture or tires or you name it in Arizona. And it's an incredible law, and I'm reasonably confident that it's not going to stand up simply for that, simply because it's interfering with, Arizona interfering with interstate commerce. Dangerous precedent, and nothing like it. I've never seen any law like it. Saying if you want to do business in Arizona, you got to do it with everybody and not just one. But anyway, that's kind of my view of what's going to happen when the federal judge sees it. So I would just urge you to weigh your service and responsibility to the industry over against 10-day or whatever it's going to be until we know it's going to be all argument on the 30th, and I'm sure the judge will rule pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, but the Breeders' Cup will have come and gone.
That's, if you say that Monarch can't be sending singles in Arizona, that's what would happen. Anything else?
No. Do the horsemen have any input on this? Bobby?
Can I come up and speak?
Yes.
And then when you're
And
done,
then
please sign
up
in.
when you're done.
Sign up when I'm done. Or you can sign up first, I don't care.
No.
But go ahead.
Or not?
Bob Hutton, HPPA. We were involved as far as we were supportive of the law. And today we're supportive of the law. And the only thing that I can really add, that I'm not an attorney or anything, but when they go ahead and you start talking about threats, you start talking about, you got to realize there's horsemen in Maryland, at Laurel, in Florida, in California. And if Monarch shut off the signal to Arizona and with the Breeders' Cup, there would be so much heat on them, because that's income to the horsemen in Florida, Maryland, California, any of those tracks they have. So I believe, this is just my personal belief, there would be so much pressure from the outside horsemen's entities that Monarch, it might happen for a day or two, but I think they'd get so much pressure that they'd resend the signal, my opinion.
And right now, we're talking about one OTB, is that correct? I understand that Arizona Downs only has one OTB left?
You'd have to ask them, I don't know.
Answer.
Sure, please.
Yeah.
Tom Author, Arizona Downs. Director, Commissioners, everybody else, we have suspended operations, and although we're still under lease for, I think, 8 or 9. But we're only currently operating in one, and then at the track. So, and that's just because this judge came out and said he's in no hurry, and he said, I don't want any more evidence, I don't want any of this. You know, we think we're going to win, they think they're going to win. We'll wait and see what happens. But a couple clarifications. One, we have not had any conversations with Monarch since April. Once we started passing this bill, and here we are, we're rehashing everything we rehashed before, and the legislature passed it. So all this stuff about give them another 2 weeks, well, first of all, it's 3 weeks, not a big difference, but it's 3 weeks, not 2 weeks. And every minute of every day strangles us a little bit more. So simply because the law is not being enforced. So, I mean, I don't think it needs to go beyond that. As far as Mr. Olson's objective, unbiased opinion of the law, I suppose you guys can see through that. It's a good law. If he's never seen anything like it, pick up other racing statutes in other states, because we mimicked it word for word from several of those. So this isn't new. Every other state does not allow to send in one and not the other. In Oregon, they've decided not to send in the signal at all, but there's no competing, there's only one track. So, which is, not really accomplished what we have. So that's all I want to say. There had this, back in April, as you guys know, they offered us 3 OTBs and said that was it. We can't survive on that. So we said no when we got the law passed. And the law is passed, it's in place. Everything that we're talking about here, we've talked about before. The law is passed. We would ask that you enforce it. The Supreme Court takes oral arguments, and it could be 6 weeks before they decide. The other clarification is, right now, if you do nothing, Turf gets the Breeders' Cup. We don't get it this year.
Not even at the main track?
We would get it at the main track, but we won't get it anywhere.
So it affects one OTB though?
Well, I know you guys say just one OTB, but keep in mind we're down to one OTB because this hasn't been enforced. It could have been 10.
Right.
If you got the signal with all the other OTBs. And
Yeah, we would ramp back up. We've got people in place. Our clerks are still there, but it's October 30th. I think the first day of Breeders' Cup is November 1st. So how quickly will they decide? But yeah, we'll have probably 8 other ones up and running. The equipment's still in, the TV's still in there, the clerks are still, we've given them 2 weeks off, is what we hope happens here. But it's the first time I think ever where the individual tracks determined that, not Breeders' Cup committee, but the individual tracks determined who could get the signal. So, and once again, excellent timing for us. But anyway, I just wanted to make those points clear. Is that we are down to one OTB. We can get back up in a day's notice. And 2, this thing where there's this ongoing negotiations between Monarch and Arizona Downs is just not true. We've tried to talk to them, and I think you guys have seen the email. We got a letter back from them, said we're in a lawsuit. Don't bug us. Talk to our attorneys. We call their attorneys. The attorneys say we're not talking to you. Okay, if it's the middle of the lawsuit. So again, we've tried, but it's anyway. Thanks.
Actually, I have kind of a follow-up question, since you were involved in, with your lobbyists, getting the law pushed through and the law written by the great people down at the House and the Senate. My question would be, did it ever come up about contracts that were signed before this date? Or, why wasn't there a grandfather clause or a retroactive clause? That's where I'm struggling. This law's dropped on us.
That never came up because I don't think there's any need to. As Dave said, there's all sorts of laws that have caused previous behavior to become illegal, and you don't get grandfathered in. Marrying a 13-year-old used to be okay. We got a law here now that says it isn't, but I'm sorry. We're already married.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's with regards to illegal activity. This is a legal activity. Betting on a horse race is legal.
Well,
is there any other laws you can give us precedent that show that they've put something in place, and any contract that was signed before that date is under that new law?
Not off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's been prohibition laws and things like that in the past where it was legal to have a dram shop, and when the law came along, it wasn't legal to have it anymore.
And please understand my struggle is what.
And you say, Rory, that it's legal. Well, it was legal. Sending a signal in without sending it to everybody is not legal. It's against the law. And any way you slice it, I mean, am I wrong?
Well, it was
And they say, let's
against my interpretation is it's against the law as of any contract signed from that date going forward. The law was not clear as to how we deal with previous contracts.
They made sending a signal in to one permittee and not all permittees, they made that illegal. Just as laws in the past have made previous behavior illegal, previous legal behavior illegal, and nobody got grandfathered into. So I'm confused as to why you're struggling with that. It's illegal.
I'm struggling because as you started coming in, the first thing I did is I looked at our sheet, and then I started going through the contract. Yes, I went through the contracts, and immediately I'm picking up like I said, these dates. I'm like, okay, these were done signed before the law went into effect, which I think was August 27, 2019. There's nothing in the law saying that these contracts are now under the new law, or, that's where I'm,
Well, I mean,
I don't know which way to go.
Two things I wonder about. I mean, all those, is a contract, an original contract after it's just a renewal? Well, that might be a new contract. But again, I think what you're doing is you're legalizing illegal behavior.
I think if it's extended, an old contract extended after August 27th, I think falls under the law.
And I don't know how many of those, I mean, aren't we trying to renew contracts today? Aren't we extending those today now what that long list is?
But I don't know how many of these are an extension that was signed after the law.
Well, it's
Two.
my understanding that the Monarch Breeders' Cup Arizona Downs, one other for you, a little track.
Will Rogers.
Will Rogers, and the Breeders' Cup turf for the three that are subsequent to August 27th.
When
The reason we conditionally approved in September was that we didn't have all the information, but that doesn't have any effect on when they were signed.
Yeah, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I got a hunch that if you brought in an objective counsel, he would say it's against the law. You're approving something that's against the law. It might have not been against the law 3 months ago, but it is now. So you can't approve that activity. But I'm not a lawyer. But it seems just intuitive to me that in all things, just because something used to be legal is no longer legal, doesn't mean the guy that was doing it beforehand can continue to do it just because he was doing it prior to it becoming illegal.
So you're willing to give up the biggest weekend in racing during the year at your track?
Yeah, well, but it's not one. It's worth it to us to enforce the law rather than what would amount to a relative pittance, given the signal acquisition cost to us that Monarch charges us to say we just would like to see the law enforced. I mean, it's the damnedest thing I've ever seen. They have to have them come up here and say, why don't we just wait another 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Why don't we just wait another 3 weeks while the judge takes it before we enforce this law? It's the silliest, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We got a law. Let's keep waiting before we enforce it. I don't understand, but it seems to be getting some traction. With
I do have another question right now. You're willing to give up the possibility of the biggest weekend of the year, but does it not impact other permittees? I mean, obviously it would impact turf. Would it not, Jay, would it not impact you? Would it not impact Tucson Greyhound Park and Phoenix Greyhound Park?
All of that was a possibility when we got the law passed. The law was passed. And now if what you're saying, well, gosh, it's going to hurt some people. Nothing's changed. It was a 2/3 majority vote. And it probably would have been more if turf hadn't said, if this law passes, we're shutting our track down. They didn't do that. But I mean, I don't understand why we're going back and reconsidering whether we should pass this law or not when it's already passed. And all those issues you bring up, Commissioner Gorey, were all in the mix when it was originally passed. So,
Yeah, I guess what
and the horsemen supported it.
Tommy, I guess what I'm struggling with is, I wasn't involved in the legislation at all. I view my role on the commission to promote horse racing, and I'm just worried that it might be a disaster for Arizona to cut off the Monarch signal to everybody.
Well, I think the disaster is if we just have one track and that one track is Turf Paradise. I mean,
Oh, I'm all for you getting it.
I mean, there may be some temporary pain, maybe not.
I'm
I
just
just think
talking
it's,
about one contract, the Breeders' Cup weekend is the biggest handle. I would venture to say, I'm not involved in operations, but I'd venture to say it's the biggest handle of the year in Arizona. I think it probably affects the horsemen.
Well, you know, and again,
It affects all other
I understand.
Monarch tracks, which would,
We-
but
just-
one weekend and then I'm all for enforcing the law, especially if the injunction,
So, but not
Is that
enforcing it, Tom, at the right time, now we're backed into a corner. If on August 27th, you would have said, we're not, sorry, the law's the law, we're cutting the signal if Monarch didn't send it in, we would have had 8 weeks to work something out. Now we have,
or no.
well, who knows? We don't know. So it's all, to your guys' credit, I'm thinking this will get settled pretty quickly, in a week, 2 weeks. Well, it hasn't been. It could go on for 90 days. And, well, we'll just wait. Well, if we'd have done something in a timely fashion, we wouldn't be where we are today. So let's just delay it a little bit more. Well, something else is going to, it'll be the Kentucky Derby. And so, and then we'll be down to just one at the track. I mean, it's just, and we've laid off a lot of people. The whole Prescott Valley is spitting nickels, and everybody's getting mad at each other. And it's all we did was build a nice track, try and do things the right way.
And you did.
And I feel like the evil empire has from day one tried to shut us down. And no matter what we try to do, no matter what effort we put into the deal, we just don't get anywhere. And we've passed a law. We couldn't have done it in a more appropriate way. It's a law, and to keep hedging and equivocating, it's just not going to get the job done.
Yeah,
Something needs to be done.
I do agree that the 2 Breeders' Cup contracts and the Will Rogers contract, I'm not sure I agree with Dave on the retroactivity part, but those definitely fall under the new law. I'm just asking you if
Yeah.
you're willing to have
Absolutely.
us enforce it for such a cost to the,
I don't know how big the cost is.
Industry.
Yeah, I don't know how big the cost is. And maybe, we've been living on bread and water. They've been living on steak and potatoes. Maybe they see what bread and water's like, and we come together and form this single network, which is what needs to be done. So, but, I just wanted to clarify that there have been no ongoing negotiations
Okay.
with Monarch. It's 3 weeks, it's not 2 weeks. I mean, there's all this stuff that's never quite accurate coming out of turf. And they say things, they're just advocating for their cause. I don't think there's anything nefarious about it. But you got to be accurate. You can't just make up stories. So anyway, thanks.
I mean, I'll be honest, from my perspective, again, I want to uphold the law. That's what I swore on oath to do. To me, I'm almost ready to just go freaking nuclear and just say, cutting it off to everyone. Y'all get at the table, figure this out, and let us
We'd be
know.
fine with that.
But I don't know if I would have enough people going nuclear with me.
Well, we're already there. So, we're just exasperated. What more can we do that we haven't done? I'll sit down.
well, we might be
As
back
their
up.
esteemed lawyer.
Can I finish?
Yes.
My statement?
Yeah.
Bob Hutton, Arizona HPPA. One thing that's very apparent that over the last week, and why we were supportive of Arizona Downs opening and having a race meet, and even Mr. Sims and I are very good friends, so we talk about a lot of these things. And Jerry I think will admit that the entries at Turf Paradise for the first week are full fields, 9, 10, 12 horse fields. People are there ready to run, and horses are ready to run, and it's all because they raced up at Arizona Downs. So, as far as the industry is concerned, this is why the horsemen wanted that entity up there to go ahead and race, because it does benefit the horsemen, it's going to put more action through the windows, it's going to create more revenue, it's good for everybody. So, and I know you guys are in a really tough spot as far as making a decision on this, and I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. So,
I'll switch with
so
you.
with that being said, I just want you to, we have seen, even though there was a bump in the road in the meet up there and everything else, we have seen some benefit so far from these horses staying in the state, the trainers staying in the state, the employees staying in the state, and spending their money in the state, and having horses ready to run, at the beginning of Turf Paradise meet. And I was very pleased when I saw the entries for the weekend, and it really showed me that they did have an impact on racing as a whole. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, everybody on this commission wants Arizona Downs to be successful. We're happy that they ran. We want them to have the signal at all their OTBs. But to sacrifice the Breeders' Cup to make that happen, I was given a loyalty oath of office that I signed that said I'd vote to uphold the law, but I'll resign from the Racing Commission before I...
Is that a threat?
No, it's not a threat. I just don't want to...
I was kidding. I'm sorry, Jay. I know you too well that I just joke around with you.
Yeah.
So
It's just, we're between a rock and a hard place.
I understand it, and that's why I'm going to walk away right now.
You're right. All three of us, I believe, want what's best for the industry. And a few weeks ago, I walked the backside of Turf Paradise and was talking to the people back there, and they're all exciting. And those are people, I don't want to put anybody's job at risk or anything, but I also have to uphold the law. And
Wouldn't want to be in your shoes like this. So
I'm ready to duck that rock.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, Mr. Sims first, and then I'll...
Thank you, Jerry Sims for Turf Paradise, Mission State.
Can you speak up there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There's a number of things that I'd like to say. We want, Turf Paradise and I want Arizona Downs to be successful. I know they don't believe that, but we sat in a lot of, I think there were 6 industry meetings where the stakeholders sat and met. And there were some good suggestions in that meeting, and in preparation, I did call and ask if Monarch would still make the offers that they have before, and I believe they would. Director Casillas had an idea, and that idea was to do what they do in gaming, to have a sharing where they could open OTBs in Maricopa County. We would open them, we'd pay for the opening, and we'd have a split of revenue with them. Normally in the tribes, I believe it's 50-50. I offered on the existing ones they had to give them 80%. Because we do want them to be successful. And then we even, at the director's urging, I went from 50-50 on the other ones up to something higher than that. I don't recall exactly, but he wanted me to give even more, and I said, okay. They also said, Monarch, that they would give them 5 sites, 3 in Maricopa County, 2 outside of Maricopa County. In those meetings, and one time I appreciate Dave Arthur said he wished he'd have done his due diligence and checked with Monarch before they bought the track, and I appreciate that. I want you to know when the law was written, it has no retroactivity. They could have put that in if they wanted to. There was no retroactivity. You're exactly right on the contracts. Those contracts were written and extend. In fact, there are no new contracts. They are all contracts that are renewals. The only new contract we had this year was, what was the name of that?
Evangeline?
No, we had Colonial Downs. Colonial Downs was a new contract. The rest are titled in renewals.
Jerry, let me stop you there for a minute. It's my understanding that the 2 Breeders' Cup for this year were signed after August 27th.
But they're renewals.
Yeah, but I think a renewal has to comply with the law.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I didn't look at it, and I trust your judgment. I will tell you, this would mean a 42%. Now, he said we were going to close down, and we didn't. If this is imposed, we lose 42% of our betting on Monarch tracks. I can promise you 100% we'd have to close. if you impose this, there is going to be a cut in purses, because we do somewhere around $3 to $4 million, something $3 to $4 million on the Breeders' Cups. But we can't operate without the Monarch tracks. We made a way so they could have Monarch tracks. It wouldn't be everything they wanted. They kept using the number 30 million. They had to have 30 million in revenue. Well, you know, I wanted to be 6'4". It didn't work out. Certain things you just got to get over. And you start out with what you can get, and then it's better than where you are, and you try to work up to it.
Can I ask just a quick question?
Sure.
Because I know when the law was either getting through or on the governor's desk or after it got signed, there was an article in the paper that said if this goes through, Turf Paradise is shutting down.
We will shut down.
Obviously, you have not shut down, but now you just said if the Breeders' Cup didn't happen, you would have to shut down?
I'm saying that if the 42% is cut, thus far we're still getting it.
Okay.
If they
So-
lose Monarch.
But if we lose Monarch, what I've been told clearly is, Jerry, if we're forced to sell all or none, we'll sell none.
Okay.
For the reasons that the attorneys have said, the law isn't sensible. I spoke to a friend of mine and partner, Maxine Gellens, and she said, as an example, she's very familiar and used to be in the cosmetic lines in Fort Real Estate. And she said, can you imagine, she said, there's certain lines, and she named off the fancy dancy brands, and they'll only sell into certain stores, they won't sell into other stores. This law would mean complete change in every industry that it's not sensible. And then there would be a commission that would decide if that company's prices are reasonable. The other states that have this, I'm not aware, but I will tell you, and they told me some. Take Ohio just as an example. There's no competing OTB systems. There are OTBs in maybe the Cincinnati area. I was born in Ohio, I should know it better. But we left when I was very young. But they don't compete. And Scott DeRudy had told us all that there are no places in the United States where you have competing OTB systems that are successful. That it doesn't exist. So we will, just to be clear, if the judge rules and then you folks take away these tracks, we have to close. We can't operate. Not only we lose 42%, but we would have those tracks not be able to bet on Turf Paradise. We lose all that because you couldn't possibly exist. Just look at our numbers. You couldn't possibly exist. And by the way, you should know, Churchill Downs does not sell us Prescott Isles. And on Mondays and Tuesdays, we bet 20,000 a day. We bet, I think, 1.6 million on them last year. Churchill handles their signal. They sell it to Arizona Downs, but they don't sell it to us. Churchill does not sell us Prescott. And I talked to the guy a week ago, and I said, well, we'll just do a mutual deal like we always did. You know, we'll take Prescott Isle, they'll take ours. He said, we're not going to do it. He wanted other concessions, and hence, we don't get it. It's in the forms, we don't get it. I would urge you, the horsemen, I heard Bob Hutton say, it will be the end of their industry. And I believe, I'm here and I want this to be successful. I want to see some gaming happen, and I want to see this get over the goal line. But we can't operate with 42%, and I'm hopeful, very hopeful, that this law will get an injunction after the oral argument on the 30th. But if we don't, and it doesn't, I'll understand, and we'll have to. Now, by the way, you know this law does not have anything to do with receiving. It only says the seller. So there's nothing illegal, as I understand it, from us taking their signal. It says if they sell, they must sell all. And then you get into the problems with interstate. So
What does that mean?
Yeah, it's just
in the law, there's no provision that says that we can't take their signal. There's
So
nothing in there.
you can put on the Breeders' Cup
If they'll
if
sell
we
it to us,
enforce the law.
if you stop them and do that, and all I know is if it shows up on the TVs, we'll show it. If there's nothing in the law that says the receiver can't receive it. It only says that if you're selling it, you have to sell all. And that is, you going to them, trying to get them, they're gonna say they're an out-of-state company, and you don't have any jurisdiction on it.
But
You're gonna say they're
But
selling
does
it.
that mean you get the Breeders' Cup or you don't?
It means that if you stop the contracts, right or wrong, if you do it, let's say you just do it, we're not gonna get Breeders' Cup, and we're not gonna get any of their signals, or maybe the ones that go, I mean, I see what you're saying, the other ones continue on. But if you stop Breeders' Cup, we won't get it.
Which is the one before us right now.
Correct. And you will know shortly thereafter. And by the way, that doesn't just hurt Turf Paradise. That hurts these horsemen because they get their half of that money.
Well, Lori's kind of, I'm with Jay. I think it'd be a disaster for Arizona racing, but kind of give me a reason why we would
'Cause you
break the
sworn-
law.
You're not.
Because I want to support
I
Arizona
understand.
racing.
You have two things in front of you. One that Rory says about enforcing the law. You have another one that says you'll do what's best for the industry. It can't be good for the industry to lose the Breeders' Cup races.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more.
And so you have two duties. One is about the law, and right now that law is a real question, and in a very short time, you're going to know the answer of what a court thinks about an injunction. They're either going to give an injunction, or they're not going to give it. And if they don't give it to them, I'll live with that. But we ought to sure wait and see what they do.
Right.
And like I said, there's no retroactivity in this law. They could have put it in if they wanted to.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I'm focusing on
Breeders' Cup.
either amendments or new contracts that were signed after August 27th when the law was enacted. So I'm not looking at the retroactivity
I see.
part of it.
Breeders' Cup
But
would be.
I'm grappling because Lori's putting the guilt feeling on me.
Well,
I'm grappling
on me.
with the legal basis we have to just say, oh, that law doesn't apply.
No, not that. No, the issue is what you also have and are tasked with doing what's best for the industry.
Oh, I agree.
And that's an equal task. It's not one ahead of the other. And I will tell you, you're not going to be able to do anything with the internet companies, the TVGs and the Express Bets that are all licensed. Correct, Greg, they're all licensed here?
We have 3 ADWs that are.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to impact them. So, I don't know, the law doesn't make sense the way it's written. And, but
What are the chances, I guess I asked Buzz, what are the chances that he could rule from the bench that day and we could have an emergency meeting on the 31st?
I don't think anybody knows. what the-
Can we request the judge to do that or no?
Yes, you can ask a judge.
Tell him that the racing commission is hanging in abeyance.
We can certainly do that. That would be unusual. The judge rarely rules from the bench like that. I think he would rule very quickly in no one's situation. But you asked specifically really for the bench. I don't think that would be likely.
Could, if you went to the judge and said that the racing commission is grappling,
Buzz, could you approach the podium, please?
the racing commission is grappling, could we accelerate the hearing
I think
before the
that would help.
30th?
I think that would help.
Well, it'd help us.
Yeah, I think it would help.
Because I kind of feel like Lori, that I feel like a felon, I'm breaking the law or something.
Well, you feel like a felon if you break the law, but you also feel like you're letting the
Letting
industry
the
down.
industry down, and my allegiance is to the industry, I tell you that. I guess I'll go to prison.
We're not involved in the litigation. That's Monarch in the state of Arizona. I will certainly ask the Monarch lawyer if he would be willing to, if I may have your permission, if he would be willing to represent to the judge that the Racing Commission would appreciate him as prompt a ruling as possible.
And I don't even know if we could get I think we have to give, 24-hour notice for a meeting?
Yes, sir.
And
Members of the commission, if I may,
If you're looking for legal advice about what the lawsuit is going forward, you do have your attorney present to be able to ask those questions to, and I would ask that you ask those questions of that attorney.
Actually, and I was just
Who's
getting
that,
ready to
Pat?
go there. Yeah, he's right over here.
Where?
He's hiding in the corner.
You're hiding.
He was just up there with us.
Pat, what do you think the odds are of getting the hearing moved up on a basis of urgency of the State Racing Commission?
Pattern, 0.
Oh.
I think the federal judge sets the schedule based on.
Not even 1 in a million?
No, I would say 0.
There's a chance?
The court has set it in accordance with the court schedule. I think it would, if in terms of, especially now that the argument's set, to ask it to accelerate based on things that were fairly predictable for the past 2 months is unlikely to be viewed very favorably.
Okay, let me approach it from a different. Is there any basis for the Racing Commission to take the position that that statute is kind of in limbo right now pending your injunction hearing and allow this and see what the judge does?
And commission members, if I may, I think you're asking for legal advice. If you'd like to have that, I can
That would be
certainly.
out
Oh,
there.
I'll address it to you.
Well, we'd
We'd
need
have to go into
yes,
executive session.
Yes.
I hate it.
Just off a whim, I just want to throw this out there because, again, we're between a rock and a hard place. We went nuclear. How fast would y'all get together and end this, all that's been going on for this last year and come to some agreement and get something that works for everyone, for everybody in the industry?
Would Monarch have to be in the room to
Would I be
determine
doing
that
that?
too?
I could address
Excuse
that
me.
if you'd like.
Name on the,
Dave Author, Arizona Downs, we met 6 times and Monarch wasn't even there, as Jay indicated. No matter what we agreed to do, didn't matter. The Monarch representative was allegedly a stakeholder, but whenever we presented anything to them, it didn't matter. But in direct answer to your question, there's no guarantee or assurance or anything that Monarch would do the really spiteful thing, and that's all it would be to cut off the signal. Jerry's even indicated he doesn't want it to be cut off, so the alternative is to send it to everybody. That's obviously the correct thing, and he'll lobby with Monarch to say, hey, don't cut me off. I got 60 OTBs. Sell it to all of them. They've got 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 8 or 9 OTBs that'll be up and running. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll win the lawsuit. So there's everybody's, oh my God, gloom and doom, it's going to be terrible. Actually, and your point is that if you threaten to cut it off, I believe they would just leave it until the judge ruled. And just give everybody the signal through Breeders' Cup. And again, the federal court, Tommy, you know this, they don't just throw out rulings. They go back and they talk to their law clerk and they prepare an order. And it may be weeks, I don't know how long it'll be. But nothing goes fast. And we've already learned that the judge said, you're not going to rush me. You think this is such a great big emergency. Why didn't you file the thing 2 months ago? So, we will meet, Commissioner Gray, we will meet the day after you make whatever decision you make in our favor, if you do. And we'll sit with Sims and we'll sit with Monarch, we'll sit with anybody to try to get it resolved. But
By the way, you're giving me a lot of credit. I'm an estate planning and tax lawyer. I couldn't find the courthouse with a GPS.
do you remember in
system.
1978 when you took civil procedure at law school? Okay, that's when I went. Harken back to that day.
But I don't know if you can answer this, or it's actually for everybody as well, and maybe even our legal counsel. And since we were talking about marijuana earlier, let's say we busted you smoking some dope out behind the barn, and we revoked your license. You go over to California, California's not going to license you because a duly enacted jurisdiction revoked your license. The contract Monarch signed says that they will abide by California's commission and also Arizona's commission. So if they're willfully violating our law, do we not have the ability to go to the California, whatever they call it over there, and say, your licensed people or these people are violating our laws? And what would California's jurisdiction do?
I don't know. But I think you would have, you have a right to do it, whether they would care or not. But let me reiterate what counsel has said. You're asking, I would assume that if there was ever any issue with respect to the enforceability of this law, and you asked Mr. Urban, your lawyer, and I don't know what he would say, he would give you his legal advice on whether or not he thinks the statute's written one way or another, retroactive or not, or something. And so would your counsel here at the table. But Monarch thinks it's effective. Monarch's filed the lawsuit. There's no question in their mind that they think that this law, and there's no question that the law goes into effect, and they want it stopped. And if they thought they could just cite a bunch of 2014 contracts and say, oh, this doesn't matter, it's it's retro, then they wouldn't have filed the lawsuit. So there's an answer to your question, and your lawyers will probably tell you that. And every single law that's ever passed probably has the same question. And unless there's an exception written in the law that says, oh, but don't worry about this thing that happened earlier, then it's effective on the day that it's effective. So that's my, but I didn't know this was going to come up, and I haven't briefed it or researched it. You've got smart people that can tell you the answer to that. But get back to your question. We'll talk immediately. We're out of money. We have to get going. We cannot get financing because you guys won't enforce the law. It's as simple as that. We're sitting around waiting. The court has not made up its mind. You folks, we've told investors all along, August 26th, this statute is going to go into effect. There's no reason for it not to. The commission will take care of it. It's the law. And yet, there was no question. What do you mean we're going to wait for the judge? The judge isn't going to issue a TRO until he's ready. And he doesn't even care until October because he thinks the law is in effect right now. So we need action, or we won't be around, honestly, for too much longer. And so we can cry and moan about what a problem it's going to be for turf, but it's an existing problem for us. And when he says 42% of the handle is Monarch, so what? Jay will go in there and bet, I'll use you as an example. Are you going to bet 42% less? Are you going to go in there and bet Saratoga or Belmont or something? If you want to wager, you're going to do it. And so would Bob and anybody else. I hate to use you, and so would Jerry. So would I. You bet on what's available. Unfortunately, when there's a choice between going to ours that doesn't have any Monarch or going to the competition that does, they don't even walk in the door for us. That's the problem. It's the difference in product that throws us off. Whether there's no Monarch or whether everybody has Monarch, everybody will be on the same playing field, and we'll compete fairly on the quality of the OTB experience, the quality of the food, the quality of the beer, the coldness of the heat of the food. That's how we will compete, but we cannot compete the way it is right now. So you got to enforce it. There's no excuses anymore. We've been trying to do this for a year. You said, hey, pass a law. So we passed a law.
I'm just trying to get us past November 1st and 2nd.
Sure.
Because if this injunction is unsuccessful and it becomes law, then I think we have to go nuclear on any future contracts. And I agree with you. Will it hurt you to be open on the biggest race at your main track?
Are you considering, and I've not talked at all, are you considering to approve the Breeders' Cup contract and canceling the rest? Is that what you're asking me?
I'd say if Monarch, they'd have to, no.
Because I could understand, I could kind of understand.
Because I'm not a retroactive. I don't believe it's retroactive. But I know you disagree with me.
Ask her. Maybe that's what they told you in executive session.
Well, I can't say what they
Oh,
told
I don't
me in
want you to tell.
executive session, but I would say if they're breaking the law on any contracts after this ruling, but if you're telling me it's gonna hurt you to be open on a conditional approval pending that decision for you and Turf to be open, Breeders' Cup, to see what the judge says in early November, just to get us past that weekend. But if it's gonna cost you, if what you're telling me is you can't make money that weekend, I'm not sure.
No, what I'm saying
That's
is.
right.
We can't negotiate with lenders or potential investors while the commission watches Rome burn.
Well,
Yeah.
but wouldn't
I
they
mean, we
still have the
just,
same problem if they're, I would think as a lender, I would be wanting to know what's gonna happen to this lawsuit, and I would be talking to you as well, so.
That's
Whether we
what-
do something today as far as lenders, I don't think they're gonna wanna do anything until after the judge rules.
No, I guess you'd have to talk to the people that we have. But it's a critical, I mean, let's say the TRO is denied, what will that make a difference to you?
Yes.
I mean, it's still,
Well, I
will
think
we
we
still
have to
be
comply
fighting
with
over
the
this
law.
retroactive thing? Will we still be
Well-
questioning whether the law means what they say it means? Will you be wondering whether the period's in the right place? Or I mean, it's the same question. The judge is going to say, the judge is going to say, the statute's fine, it's not, if he says that, it's not unconstitutional. That will tell you presumably nothing about all these other alleged issues you have with the statute. But that's why all this other stuff is just, noise. It couldn't have been written any clearer, we don't think, that if you don't offer the signal, you're violating the law, so.
But it couldn't be clearer to me that if we shut down all Monarch racing in Arizona racing's virtually dead.
What now, that's because
It's such a big
OTB,
part. Well, it's all I watch.
all right. And so if you choose to want to wager, you'll have to switch to one of the New York tracks or one of the other tracks. And why is it that we let the Monarch decide whether our law is okay? The only, I mean, you have to understand, Tommy, the reason they don't want to send us the signal is supposedly because it's going to hurt Turf Paradise, and that's what they've stated in their pleadings, and that there's not room for two players in the same market. And I mean, if that's the case, we don't need it. All the decisions you've made earlier about approving our OTBs and everything else are out the window because they don't want us to survive. You just can't let the big bully in the room tell us what to do. And we think they'll come around. Bob Hutton thinks they'll come around.
Yeah, Bob was
There's
clear on
no, it's a spiteful reaction to the small guys like us trying to fight off the big guy. And we luckily we were successful at the legislature. So, thanks.
If I may, Jerry Sims for Turf. I just want to comment on a couple quick things. It's been made clear to me they're not going to sell. They believe, it's not spiteful, they believe that there's no place in the country where successfully two operations are in the same area. If it was spiteful, they wouldn't have given it to them at their track. But they felt that was not going to interfere, so from the day they opened, they had the Monarch up there. The other problem with talking about New York racing and so on is those start 3 hours before. So when you come in and you're in an OTB because you want to see California racing as an example, that would be Southern California, that would be up at Golden Gate. The other tracks are just about over. They may have their last couple races, but they start 3 hours before us.
Right.
So there's a huge difference in saying, well, I'll just go bet New York. I go in after and they're not there. So anyway, it would be monumental, and I think you have an equal responsibility to do what's good for the industry.
I have a question for Greg. Wake up. These contracts that some of us are starting to look at as retroactive, when they come around again, there will be new ones. When it comes time, it'll be signed 2020 or 2021. We won't be seeing these same ones again with these old dates, right?
You're asking a hypothetical question, and I think it's best for your legal counsel
Okay.
to.
Whatever we talked about with this in executive session would be the advice I would provide to you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I signed up to speak, ma'am.
Yes, you can come up now. Quit hiding back there.
Jay Wells, Retail Racing and Retail Park Foundation. If there's the proverbial fly on the wall, I'm it. Because I've been in every one of these meetings to try to find a breakthrough in this discussion that the director hosted. And likewise, the amendment to our bill that originally gave us the 6 parlors was amended, and we objected to that because of the language, and we thought that it was so muddy that we clearly just wanted 6 parlors, and we wanted the right to have our signals. So I'm also the fly on the wall to watch the legislative process. But I'm also testimony that Jerry and I got in a room one day and we worked out a very smart win-win deal. And the reason we worked out is because I needed him to agree with me as much as he needed me to agree with him. And I've never seen that happen in these stakeholders meetings. I've never seen the first step forward to try to find a win-win. It was my way or the highway on both sides to that degree. So that's where I come from, the perspective of the fly on the wall. This is not fair to you to be forced to make this decision, and it is momentous. It means whether people want us to have our parlors in Pima County, our 6 parlors. Are we going to have the Primus? Are we going to have the Breeders' Cup? Are we going to have that? It's caused us to come to a stalemate. But my point is, it's not fair for you to do something so impactful on the future of horse racing without having the understanding of the law much further than I know it. Much further than I would say most lawyers know it. So I would urge you to go to your counsel, learn the hard facts. One of the things that, and I mean this with all due respect, this law has been flowing since last May, and it's heading our way, and it's like a train coming down, and there was not the hard work on the commission's part to say, which way are we going to jump once it gets here? It's clear watching this meeting today that the commission is not prepared to make a decision. It's unfair for all of us in the room to ask you to make that decision, and that's what lawyers are for, and this is law. I'm as confused about it as anybody in the room, and we helped write it and get it passed. So I would urge you to really consider this. The damage that could be done, you know, sometimes you really lose when you call somebody's bluff.
And I did think earlier I had seen somebody in the back had raised.
Good afternoon, morning, whatever it is. I'm Milton Gabaldon. I have Fountain Hills Tap House. I'll sign in a second.
Thank you.
I will. Okay, and of course, I'm associated with the Boys from Arizona Downs, and what happened to me this week, it's not your fault. Is it your fault? It's not their fault. Is it their fault? There was a law that was enacted. Why it's not being followed, I don't know. I'm not here to set the blame. You guys are forgetting about the little people that put you guys here, that put the elected officials there, that made the law. We're all business people. I'm here to do business. I was approached by Arizona Downs. I was called by Turf Paradise, and I just was in a process with Arizona Downs at that time. But why I went with the process is because there was a law that was coming into effect that was going to, because I have a very successful business the way I run it. and this was just an addition. So there's got to be somewhere along the line, guys, you know, us as individuals, us as business people, I don't know if any of you own businesses, but to have the rug pulled out from you underneath like you like that. I do advertising with the local newspaper. It's my 1-year anniversary. The ad's out yesterday that, you know, as long, and we have our up-track bedding and all this stuff. Now I'm looking like the fool of Fountain Hills because somebody can't make up their mind on a law. You know, let me know what's happening ahead of time. Why is it even going to the legislature? I should join Jerry because Jerry called me. You know, I should have done that. Is that the right thing to do? I'm just letting you know as an OTB operator and really as a business where this is all going. And we're the ones that are getting hurt. So it's something you need to look at and decide soon. Thank you for your time.
Was there anyone else? Any discussion amongst us? I mean, I'm leaning towards these contracts that are signed before the law are, not really before us, because they were signed before the date of the law. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I agree.
I agree.
Would we, since all of these are on the agenda, would we need to do a motion to strike them from the agenda? And we would have to do each one, or could we just?
You could do in the bulk.
Anything signed before August 27th? I so move that any contract signed before August 27th is not before us today. Any extensions, renewals signed after will be before us to determine compliance with the law if the injunction does not hold up.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless,
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we need to specify which one of these contracts so that, I mean, I know he's saying striking, but we need to itemize to make clear which ones are being
I'd
removed?
amend my motion to say that the only ones that we have any dealing over today are the two, the Monarch Breeders' Cup for turf, the Monarch Breeders' Cup for Arizona Downs, and what's that other track, Jay?
Will Rogers Downs.
Which
Will
one?
Rogers,
Will Rogers down for Arizona Downs.
So it's Will Rogers, which was B5, where's the Monarch Breeders' Cup. B21 Monarch Content Breeders' Cup for Turf Paradise, and then on the A16 Monarch Content Breeders' Cup. Those are the only three?
Yes, that are, we have standing. really
That we're not
today.
involved in this.
Okay.
So we determine retroactivity, I think.
Okay,
that's-
so I have the amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay, and,
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
okay.
Madam Secretary?
Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless,
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock.
Yes.
Okay, the amendment carries.
Can we take a quick 5-minute break? I've been drinking too much coffee.
Okay, we are in recess at 11:48. Okay, we're back on, sir.
Calling the meeting back to order. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Thank you. The time is 11:56, and Commissioner Garay,
Here.
Commissioner Lawless.
Here.
Commissioner McClintock.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum, and again, please silence or turn off your cell phones. If you must take a call, please take it out into the hallway.
All right. Ann, did you want to speak, or did you just want us to clarify?
I'd be happy to clarify. My prior motion, I guess there's a little confusion. I don't think we're addressing any pre-827 contracts today. They're all still in effect. Take the signals. The three that we are about to address are Will Rogers for Arizona Downs and the two Monarch contracts for the Breeders' Cup. With that, I'd like to get the easy one out of the way. I move that we approve the Will Rogers Downs contract for Arizona Downs.
Will Rogers, I thought was for Turf Paradise. Yeah, it's for Turf Paradise.
Oh, I
It's
thought it was,
listed under Arizona.
it's listed under Arizona.
Okay. I didn't.
822.
E5. Oh, it's hiding up here at the top. Never
Oh,
mind.
okay.
All right,
So,
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, can you clarify that motion? I was listening to what you were
Okay.
trying to figure out.
I move that we approve the Will Rogers Downs contract for Arizona Downs.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Madam Secretary?
Thank you. Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless?
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. That contract is approved.
They, I'll be resting there 2 weeks.
All right.
Did you want to sign up?
This one's a tougher one.
Well, you've got to do turf variance. Will Rogers and turf variance.
Oh, I move we approve Will
It's just
Rogers.
Arizona Downs.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah,
oh,
we
no,
just did
it's
Arizona
five.
Downs.
Yeah, they don't have Will Rogers on the turf.
Yeah, they do. It's,
Yeah, we do.
it's B5.
D5.
Yeah, turf has previously been signed.
Previous, okay, that's retro. Sorry.
You're right.
Okay. This is the tougher one. I think both parties make a fantastic point. I personally think that showing the Breeders' Cup in Arizona would be disastrous. It's the biggest day of the year, brings out people that don't normally go horse racing, I see on that day. So I'm gonna kind of make a weird motion that we approve the contracts for, conditionally approve the contracts for those two, for Arizona Downs and Turf Paradise for the Breeders' Cup, pending the court ruling that'll come out after the Breeders' Cup. And depending on that outcome, we go back and revisit the retroactivity issue of the statute and all the monarch signals as they pertain to all permittees in Arizona.
I don't know if we can do that because if it's retroactive and it goes against, or either way, whichever it goes, we then don't have time to meet before the Breeders' Cup.
No, that's why I'm saying we go ahead with the Breeders' Cup and we address the retroactivity depending, and what to do with all the monarch contracts coming in to Arizona at that time. But I'm just trying to get us through the Breeders' Cup.
My understanding is the Monarch contract with Arizona Downs is not signed yet by Monarch, correct? But it is signed between Monarch and Turf, correct?
Ann McGovern with Arizona Downs, and I will sign in. Yes, I presented to you the Monarch contract prior to sending it to the Monarch representatives because I knew they would cross out our OTBs and then we would send it back to you for approval, and then you would say, I'm approving the contract based on you presenting it to us, but it isn't really the contract we want you to approve.
No, but I'm saying we conditionally approve it with just your main track for now.
So you're not going to approve the amendment, or I think it was Exhibit B that was sent? I'd have to see.
Yeah, I'm just keeping the status quo. You're getting it at your main track.
And will not be able to show it at our OTVs.
I think that'll clear the whole deal, and I'm trying to get us past Breeders' Cup Day. But I will disapprove it, and if the injunction is unsuccessful and the law is a law, I'm going to uphold the law.
And I'm not going to reiterate everything that the authors have already said. Well, no, I am, sorry. That may be too late for us, but I appreciate that you have that understanding.
But I don't think you're going to lose money showing it at your main track during Breeders' Cup weekend.
No, and that really wasn't my intent when I said it may be too late. This is about the investors that are waiting to see how the commission responds to the
Well,
law.
I think it'll be early November.
As I said,
I
that may be too
understand it's
late.
gonna be a quick, okay.
All right, thank you.
You said it was gonna be weird.
It was weird.
I'm trying to understand it, so, because it's, you're approving, conditionally approving the Monarch content for
Just Breeders' Cup weekend.
just Breeders' Cup weekend, the Breeders' Cup content for the contract that Turf has with Monarch for the Breeders' Cup content, which allows them to have it at the track and at their OTBs. And the yet-to-be unsigned contract between Arizona Downs and Monarch that, well, it's not even signed yet, so we don't even know what the final agreement is.
No, but I think Dave was confident that you'd get it at your main track, aren't you?
I think they bailed on us.
Oh, there it is.
I need to put that in.
Okay, Ann, are you confident that you'll get it on Breeders' Cup at the track?
We are currently no, I'm not confident that we'll get it. I would say we're in the gambling business, probably 50-50. And I do want to also give you a little more information that Monarch they have two different rates for their signals. One is for OTBs and one is for brick and mortars. They had told me verbally and Tom Author verbally, of course we didn't get it in writing, that once we ran a race meet, then we would get the brick and mortar rate at our track, which is lower. They have not done that even after several work weeks. That doesn't answer your question, but I felt that this was a good time to throw that in. So I would say there is an opportunity for us to get it at our track, but I can't guarantee that now.
But the Breeders' Cup race, the same for Turf Paradise as it is for you guys. It's one rate for all.
That's correct. Unless Monarch changes our contract to take more out, which they might. But you'll get a copy of it as soon as it's signed. Anything else?
Okay. Then I conditionally approve it subject to signature along with Turf Paradises.
Lloyd, do you want to say something?
Said it as loud as I can.
You did a good job.
Lloyd Yoder, HPP 8. I need some clarification on what you're trying to do here today.
I'm trying to get us past Breeders' Cup.
I understand that, and you're saying the Breeders' Cup, how they refer to it, content. What happens about Monarch Signal starting Saturday when we're up until Breeders' Cup? Are you just approving Breeders' Cup Day? Are you?
No, I think your contract
With
that
Monarch.
was signed before, we're not considering today because it was signed
So
before
it's
August
good.
Going forward.
27th. So you're good.
It's good. We just want to get the Breeders' Cup shown in Arizona.
I mean, as much as I want the Breeders' Cup, I kind of feel like we're approving a contract that has yet to even be signed, so we don't even know if Monarch's going to obey the law. And we're just kind of doing some selective enforcement here. I mean, again, the law is the law as we know it right now until either a judge tells us it's not or the legislature writes a new law. So I don't even know if this is a valid.
I got my answers in my
No.
Thank you.
A valid motion.
Well,
Are
I
we-
think we do your nuclear.
Are we going to close the floor to comment unless you ask for it?
Yeah, I will, but we haven't asked for comment yet because we're still having our discussion
Try to
here.
help you on that,
Oh,
if I may.
You guys are talking.
yeah, we were talking. I will call you up in just a second, please. Did you have some more?
No, again, it's a weird motion, but I think I'd support your nuclear option.
No, I don't want to go nuclear, but.
No, if the judge rules that the law is valid, I go back and look at it, and we have to follow the law, but I think we're in a limbo period waiting for that. And I want to get us past the biggest racing. I think it's good for the horsemen, it's good for the 2 tracks.
But I'm
3 tracks, I'm sorry, Jim.
my question would be, if the contract never gets signed with Monarch and Arizona Downs, and yet they do carry it, or what, the signal for whatever, did we just did we just break the law by approving something that's not even a signed contract?
That's why I said conditionally approved, subject to it being signed.
And if Monarch doesn't sign it, we've got this.
That'll help me make your nuclear decision after the fact.
Jerry?
I have a suggestion to try to help.
Please
us.
again identify
Jerry
yourself for the
Sinister,
record. Thank you.
Brothers. Let me ask one question. Ann, did you have the Breeders' Cup last year?
Yes.
Okay. I'll tell you what I'll do. If for any reason it doesn't get signed, not because Ann holds it up, because I'm sure she won't, but if for some reason Monarch does not give them a signal, I'll take their last year's numbers of what they did at their track and figure out what their gross profit, not net profit, I'll give them from the top. I'll give them that money for what they did last year, the profit. If they made $20,000 by having it, I'll give them the $20,000 if he doesn't get something. So they don't have to worry. I don't want her to hold it up and say, I'd rather collect from Jerry. But if they'll sign it, they have to show good faith. But if they'll show good faith, and if for any reason Monarch says, you know what, I'm not signing it, other than the law got decided on the 30th, if the law got decided when they go in and he ruled from the bench, then it's a non-issue. But if the judge does not rule, and it goes past Breeders' Cup, and Monarch says, we're just not giving them at the track the Breeders' Cup, I'll give them whatever the gross profit. And they don't have to lift a finger.
That sounds great.
How does that affect the person?
Jerry, you understand?
Take out of that, yeah, out of the gross, it would hurt, the purses needs it for that day. But I want to, the track is struggling, and I want to say that I'll help their situation.
So that would be just out of your part?
I'll just pay it.
And Jerry, you understand my point. It's in your best interest to sit down immediately, again, or influence Monarch on behalf of Arizona Downs, because it's kind of Russian roulette. If that injunction is unsuccessful, we've got to follow the law, and it's going to be a nuclear deal on all the Monarch tracks.
I understand that, and that's, that would be a problem if they do it, and I don't think I can influence. I really, Scott has said to me, Jerry, I'm sorry, but if this law stays in effect, we're not going to sell you.
Okay, you got to let him know that he's running 2 and maybe 3 racetracks in Arizona out of business.
He understands, he's worried about this being a precedent in other states to have this law in effect.
That family's in such disarray that I think if you put their back to the wall,
I'll do everything I can.
in a united front.
Let's get back to the motion.
But I will try, Tom, because it means staying in business at Turf Paradise.
Right.
Commission members, if I may, just to get back to the statute that you are trying to grapple with, the language is that the commission shall approve the simulcast agreement if the commission determines that the agreement is reasonable and complies with the requirements of this subsection, which include reviewing whether it's offered to permittees and OTVs. So the commission is to look at the reasonableness of the contract and have a discussion about other portions of this subsection in making your decision.
So what does that mean? That my motion was full of baloney?
I am simply just reading you the statutory language since we've kind of gotten a little bit.
It's also to say that you'll do what's best for racing. That's also an obligation of the commission. Thank you.
I do not have a second on that motion, by the way.
Second.
You want to clarify what you're seconding, sir?
I'm seconding the motion to approve conditionally the Monarch contract with Turf Paradise and Arizona Downs for the Breeders' Cup.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You want clarification on the fact that you had full discussion on the contract review and what was in compliance and not in compliance before rendering this?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't feel the Monarch, the Arizona Downs contract is even yet in full compliance, so I don't know how we can be approving it.
Well, I
That's-
conditionally approved it. I made a motion to conditionally approve it, subject to it getting executed.
Is that the only thing outstanding, just a signature?
In my
Is
mind.
it, yeah, just signature, or that they're providing it not only to the main track
I
and
know.
OTVs? Or just the main track?
I just think that everything needs to be on the record for full clarification before you go forward.
Well, I'd like it to go to all their OTVs. I'd like to see all their OTVs open before.
I think everybody's in agreement there, Tom. The fact of the matter is that your legal counsel just read you what your responsibilities are in approving or denying a contract agreement. And I think if you're going to make any kind of motion, that you should verbalize everything that's involved with that contract review, whether things are in compliance, out of compliance, and why you're making this motion.
Well, I think they're out of compliance, Monarch is, by not offering Arizona Downs all their OTVs. I can't remember on that analysis sheet if the rate was different than turfs, but that would be out of compliance. But I feel that the harm to Arizona horse racing is greater for that one weekend, so that's why I'm conditionally approving the contract, subject to getting a signature on Arizona Downs contract, and await the decision of the court as to the statute.
So what happens if the judge rules on October 30th that the laws can continue on, and then it's, I think then per your motion, then Arizona Downs should be getting the signal that they're tracking into OTBs, and if it's, if it's going to turfs and turfs OTBs, so is then the instruction that the department run in with guns and shut everything down, or? I mean,
No. My goal is to keep the Breeders' Cup weekend open for Arizona racing, because I think it would be, the harm is worse. I think then we'd have an emergency meeting that following, or I'd want to have an emergency meeting the following week to discuss your nuclear option. It's always going to be known as Rory's nuclear option. You see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to get us past the busiest
see that,
weekend.
but I feel like the emotion may be, and we may be violating the law, so at this point in time, can I call for an executive session while we have a motion? I just want to get some clarification.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion.
No, I mean,
Executive.
does he have to withdraw, or can it?
Can't withdraw if you'd like
Okay.
to.
Yeah, because I can redo it after hearing.
Okay, so the motion is stated as withdrawn, and I hear that you
That you didn't understand
gentlemen would
anyway.
like to go into an executive session. Do I have a motion on that?
I move to go into executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Garay?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless?
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock?
Yes.
Time is 12:16 p.m. and we are recessed for the second executive session. So, thank you.
People were wondering if you...
The following is the third open session of the 674th Arizona Racing Commission meeting held October 10th, 2019 at 1110 West Washington, Suite 250, Phoenix, Arizona 85007.
All right, let's call the meeting back to order. Madam Secretary?
Thank you. The time is 12:41, And we are in the third open session. Commissioner Garay,
Here.
Commissioner Lawless,
Here.
Commissioner McClintock.
Here.
Thank you. And as a reminder, please silence or turn off all your cell phones. If you must take a call, please take it in the hallway. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. And the motion was withdrawn, so we don't have anything on the floor, correct? All right, the item for discussion is 2, Arizona Downs, number 16, Monarch Content Breeders' Cup. And I do think we need to discuss, there's a few items we do need to look at. I'll just go with the first one, is the simulcast provided to every permittee and the permittee's OTBs? And at right this time, I don't think we know that, because the contract is not signed, correct? Your contract's not signed, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so there is no signed contract.
Offer.
Sorry.
What was that? Somebody said something?
Well, it hasn't been offered to all our OTBs, I don't believe.
Okay.
It-
And of course, the contract does not contain all the necessary information right now, because I think one of them would be signatures of both sides. And then, of course, there is the consideration per the statute that it's, right now, we don't know if it's going to be provided to the track, the physical track and the OTBs. So I do not think at this time we can approve this well, we don't even have a contract to approve. So looking for some further discussion or a motion.
Just for information, for the commission's information, I did send a letter to Scott Yarudi asking for contract information, who he's doing business with in Arizona, which permittees, and asked that the response be submitted to the division within 5 days. I have not received a response back from them. I did get an email from Scott saying he received my letter and I would be hearing from his legal counsel, but to date, I have not heard from him or legal counsel.
Anything, any discussion from there? There.
I have nothing to say.
We need a motion, though.
Well, it's not a motion to deny, because we're just not, I move that we don't even hear this at this time until we have all the required information to make a determination per the statutes as directed.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Madam Secretary?
Thank you. Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless,
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock.
Yes.
So basically, this matter is not being decided at this meeting because of lack of information on the contract.
Correct.
Right. Thank you.
The next item is, we did the Will Rogers, right? Yeah.
Yes.
The
21.
21 Monarch Content Breeders' Cup for Turf Paradise. And right now that simulcast signal is being provided to the permittee and and all of that permittee's OTBs, correct? And is the agreement complete, and does it contain all the necessary information? I think from what I saw, it did at that time. From what I looked at, it did contain all the necessary information. And then the other one is if there are any other areas of consideration per the statutes, and I think there is one that it's currently not, the signal is not being offered to Arizona Downs and its OTBs. So at this point in time, I would go ahead and move to deny this request until the signal is provided to all permittees and OTBs as required by Arizona statute.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so then the motion's going to die for lack of a second.
So just, we don't have to remove it here.
That motion's off. You guys need to figure out something to come to a decision on the matter.
I'm open.
I know, I'm thinking.
I'd table it. Can't table it.
Can't table it.
Well, Cassie,
I'm not running the meeting. This is your guys' decision to make.
can't do it for you.
Well, but I mean, we table it to what time? Because it has to be approved before the Breeders' Cup takes place on November 1st, or the 2nd, right?
Well, again, you know my feelings. I just want to get through Breeders' Cup weekend with everybody happy and then go back and do it, so I can't second your motion.
As parliamentary order, Mr. Chairman, if I might help, your motion dies for lack of a second. The question the chair would ask, is there any other motion on the floor? In other words, do any of the other two commissioners have a motion to make that might get a second and prevent the commission?
Right, that's what I have yet to hear another motion, so I'm just chair and motionless.
Jay?
Well, I'm not sure what to do.
Could we move to approve and they get their signal? And if they don't, they're both denied?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, our goal is not to jeopardize the Breeders' Cup being shown in Arizona while still upholding the law. So how do you put that in a motion?
Get a dictionary.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Sure, please, help us out here.
Again,
The Breeders' Cup is,
state-
David, author for Arizona Downs. The Breeders' Cup is such a anomaly. It's not like a typical monarch race or a monarch content management. It's everybody else's event that happens to be set at Santa Anita. And this year, for the very first year, the handling of the signal is all going through the host track as opposed to the Breeders' Cup group. So as an unfortunate coincidence for us, we're stuck in the same place by a company that really isn't, it's not their thing, it's just their venue. Yet for some reason, they've announced to us that they're not going to send us the Breeders' Cup signal for the same reasons that they claim, for Gulfstream or some other one. It would be my hope or suggestion that you announce to the Breeders' Cup and to anyone who in Santa Anita and folks at Monarch that they're not going to be able to send the Breeders' Cup to Arizona unless they release it to all permittees and their OTBs pursuant to the law. And that you allow us or you allow yourselves to have an opportunity to meet again or have Rudy talk to Rudy and say, come on guys, this is, we don't have any choice. You've got to release it. You've got to finally obey the law. We've covered your tails a little bit on this retroactive question to give us a chance to see what the judge says. But, you've got 2 weeks to agree to present it to everybody, just like our law says. It's no skin off your rear ends anyway. I mean, it's it's the Breeders' Cup. It's not the Santa Anita Cup.
Well, the
Yeah.
problem is, by doing that, we're doing a disservice to everybody in Arizona that wants to watch and wager on the Breeders' Cup.
No, I believe that they'll release the signal at that point, or you
Well,
can have another meeting and figure it out. And we'll give you an opportunity to talk to the people who run the Breeders' Cup as opposed to the Stronach folks, and say, this is our situation. This is the dilemma that we have, and that is that we're trying to enforce a law, and we can't think of a reason not to, even though you guys are doing a hell of a job.
No, we're trying, no, I mean.
Finding other reasons not to, and say, and just present it to them just like that, and say, guys, you know, it's time. This is the Breeders' Cup. It's not your little baby that you own, and that's what we have to do. And I believe, with the assistance of, some of the folks we know then, and with the assistance of Turf Paradise, who obviously wants to run the Breeders' Cup at their OTBs, we can convince them to do that.
The Breeders' Cup is a separate entity, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Last year it was at Churchill.
So where is Monarch getting off on thinking they can say where the signal goes to? I would think the Breeders' Cup people have to say.
Well, why don't we have a contract with the Breeders' Cup? I mean, Monarch, the signal's being run through Monarch.
That's where I'm kind of going. I would think that the contract should be with the Breeders' Cup.
This year they changed their, anyway, Ann probably know better than I, but they changed their contractual arrangement. It just allows Monarch to run it. You take care of it.
Yeah.
Ann McGovern with Arizona Downs. Actually, Dave did an excellent job. He's correct. The Breeders' Cup used to have a staff that handled their own simulcast contracts. They have since, when a venue is chosen to run the event, given that responsibility to the venue, and this is the first year that they've done that. This venue just happens to be a Monarch or a Stronach venue. So it's the perfect storm.
Yeah.
But in the past, they have taken care of their own contracts for simulcasting.
But it would sound to me like the Breeders' Cup, as a separate entity, they would be like, Monarch, you need to send it to everyone right now.
Right.
Stop playing this little game.
Yes, you would think. I concur.
Is there any chance of getting whoever at the Breeders' Cup on this week on the phone and say, what are you going to do here? You going to let Monarch violate our state laws, or are you going to present this signal to all our OTBs? And
We have contacted the Breeders' Cup, and the person that we deal with is changing positions in January and becoming a Stronach employee.
Oh, it is a perfect story.
Yeah, Daryl, we'd love to hear from you because you represent jockeys all over the western United States, correct?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name on the
Daryl
record.
here, Western Regional Manager for the Jockeys Guild. Mr. Chair, members of the board, it's a pleasure to be here in Arizona to address you all. I'm learning more about this and trying to understand just what the best way to go, just like you all, in trying to comprehend what's going on here. And Chairman Goy, I appreciate your honesty, and I know where you're at as far as trying to do the right thing legally. And that's where I keep hearing you say that. And by law, I think you have to do the right thing. And I can appreciate where you're coming from for the good of Arizona, because the industry, it's so important, the decision you all are going to make here, and there's so much to it. But what I think is, with Monarch and Scott DeRudy, I know he's a good businessman, and that's why he's in his position. But I believe if no matter what is decided here, if they cut you off, and that's what it appears to be, they're going to cut you off if you all don't get together and talk to them beforehand. Because no matter what is decided here, if they pull the plug, then you're all going. I think something has to be decided to get DeRudy on the phone and everybody get together and see where he stands before the decision is made on the 30th. Because the last minute, you've got so much to consider with employees and people and everything that has to be considered. But you have to work it out with them now, I think, and know where you stand. Because if he's gonna, no matter what is decided here, if they come up and say, well, and I'm still not clear why. Is it gonna affect the rest of the country by what is decided here? Is it gonna be that much money to them throughout the whole country? It's gonna set a precedent? What's gonna happen in Arizona? Are they gonna lose that much money throughout the country by doing this with Arizona? I don't know. And I wish I knew more about how the mechanics of all this, or to understand why they're not doing what is right for horse racing. I feel, and I think Scott's, I've always known him to be a good guy and what is good for racing. But when I'm hearing here, I just don't understand it. Is it that much? Are they willing to give up to set a precedence here in Arizona for the rest of the country? Is that much money involved? Or if you say, well, in Arizona, it's all or none, will they give you all the signal? I'm just trying to make all the sense of this.
That's our dilemma.
Well, I hear you with Scott DeRudy, but I think with regards to the Breeders' Cup, now I'm just like, I don't think it's his call. The Breeders' Cup is just using him to provide the signal. The Breeders' Cup are the people who should be saying, here's where it's going. I don't know if the Breeders' Cup knows that he's using the Breeders' Cup possibly as a little game out here in Arizona.
They probably do know, because Craig Fravel, who's the head of the Breeders' Cup, was going to go to work for Santa Anita after the Breeders' Cup. He's going to become the general manager of all the Stronach Racing, I assume, at least Santa Anita. So,
No, it's all of it.
yeah, the whole Stronach group, right? So they know what's going on. So,
So what you're saying is you believe that the Breeders' Cup would probably say, yep, we're behind Monarch on this?
yeah. Lloyd wants to say something.
May I be heard?
Only if we get a pair of boots for all of us.
Yeah. Thanks, Darryl.
I'm becoming a lawyer. May I be heard?
Yes.
On the
I
record,
got three.
please. Identify yourself for the record.
Lloyd Yoder with
Thank you.
HPPA.
Thank you.
I got three things here. First of all, you must understand what Dave just said earlier. The Breeders' Cup used to come in, they'd take over the whole track. They take over everything, security, everything.
They still do.
No, they gave the rights to, this year, for some reason, they gave the rights to Santa Anita. That's all I know about that.
So the Breeders' Cup doesn't get all the money from...
Well, they get all of their money, I'm sure, but the decisions that are made was made through them until this year, and now they gave the rights to make the decisions through Santa Anita.
Probably
That's what I
because Craig's going to work for Santa.
Second thing I approached Jerry and Buzz about all parties, stakeholders, Rito, Arizona Downs, Turf Paradise, the Horsemen. We get in a room with one representative from each group or two, but we don't need a congregation throwing in their 2 cents worth. We pick a spokesman and we call this DeRudy and tell him that this is what the Arizona people want. The Horsemen want this, Turf Paradise wants this, Arizona Downs wants this, Rito, and the commission is looking for answers from the parties.
I like that a lot, because that's what I was going to suggest. I mean, tell him that the commission has to uphold the law. And the law is that they send it to everybody.
And I think it needs to be done immediately, maybe not today until we put our thoughts together and I reach out to the other parties and make sure that they're available and can come and we do this, but in the near future, in the next few days.
I agree.
And see if we can get an answer. Thirdly, when we get him on the phone, we ask him to clarify what he's going to do with Arizona Downs as far as the Breeders' Cup signal. Is he going to send it to their facility, their bricks and mortar, or is he going to send it to their OTB or not? We just need to know, and we need to know now so we can make our decision. We can ask him that question, not that we're going to get the right answer or not. Now, I don't know the guy. But right now, I don't like him, but that's we can, that's what I proposed to Mr. Sims, and he's willing to do that. I can talk to my president, Hutton. I'm sure he'll agree with that. We get a hold of Jay in Tucson, and I think everyone's still
Dave,
here.
would you agree to that? Would you agree to?
Sure, we'll sit down, like I said, we'll sit down at any time if you want to. I'm just trying to give you a procedural way to, and I know it's a pain in the rear end to come back and have another meeting, but you got nothing else to do, probably.
Back to horses.
Reschedule or schedule an emergency meeting or an interim meeting in 2 weeks or something. I don't know. I don't know the influence. I don't know the influence of the case and whether Giroudi, as a party to a lawsuit, wants to talk outside of the presence of his lawyers and all this. I don't really know how he'll react to that, but
We'll never know unless we give him the opportunity.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Your lawyer, Pat Urban, should probably run it.
But anyway, that's my suggestion, and I think that will cut I'm not one for kicking the can down the road, but we have to take in consideration do our due diligence and then move forward. But just to put this off and see what happens, Breeders' Day is crazy.
Yeah.
I
Thank you very much.
couldn't agree with you more.
Today's the 10th. Would you have, by the 17th, that's a week from today, word as to the meetings taking place?
We can
Or
certainly
has
make
taken place.
we can certainly make that effort, and the sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Sims?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I can get Tim on it, Jerry Sims. I wanted to tell you that what I would expect, I haven't talked to Scott DeRudy, but I can tell you, I'm in favor, Lloyd brought to me the idea of making a call to him, and I
In
at
a
first...
united front, yeah.
Yeah, and I first thought that we'd have a better chance if he didn't do well in the courts. My concern, but I want to do it because Lloyd wants to do it. But my concern is that right now he might be thinking he's 2 weeks away from the court hearing and he may want to see what the court does. But we will make the call. The one thing that I don't understand is this giving or not giving the signal for the Breeders' Cup to Arizona Downs. I can't imagine any reason why, other than the paper hasn't gone back and forth, that they wouldn't get it there. And I would expect that he'd be consistent and not give it to the OTBs. I think we could assume that.
The law says he has to give it to the OTBs, and our rules say that we have to uphold the law.
Yeah.
We have to enforce the law.
But you also have to think it's good for racing. And I would just tell you,
Well, we don't have anything that says we have to do what's good for racing. We all know we want to do what's good for racing, but we've got a piece of paper that says we have to uphold the law. So,
I understand the dilemma, but what I meant is your overall job as being commissioners was to do what's good for racing.
absolutely.
I agree, but
That's why
we're
we
facing
signed
a
up.
state law that we're being asked to violate, and I think we're coming down on not violating the law. So get in a room, we can table this till, what'd you say?
The 17th, that's next Thursday. Is that plenty of time?
We can call him, I said to Lloyd, we can call him today. But,
We can do it telephonic if we have to.
But
Or
what do we?
Yeah, I'd rather do it. I'm gonna be out of town, but I can make myself available.
I will do my best. I just cannot guarantee what venue I will have available on that specific date.
I'll sit out on the park bench.
Telephone.
We can do it telephonically, but all I'm saying is,
I'll stand in my car.
Yeah, stand in your car is
do I understand it right, that if they won't give it to their OTBs, that nobody's gonna get it? Is that what you're saying, using turf
I'm
paradise?
saying we're not ruling on that today, but that's what the law says, is what I'm saying.
We're on a fact-finding mission, Jerry, to find out what they.
You're gonna assist us in either denying.
We'll try our best.
Yeah.
We'll try our best.
But you can tell DeRudy that the commission is very intent on upholding the law as it's written today. We're not gonna wait for the court ruling. And if he goes hard line, then, you know, it's everybody's peril. But
Well, yeah, we took an oath that we will uphold the laws of the state of Arizona, and we don't have any choice. It's the law, and either we.
Okay, I can expect we won't get to the reason. We're gonna try, but we'll try our hardest. And I would expect him to not budge.
Yeah.
But we'll try. We'll
Okay.
try.
Well,
All right, so can we have an answer by, is 3 PM on that Thursday good for you, or do you want to, you picked it, you tell me what time?
I just need to know, well, if you're going to have the meeting on the 17th, and I need to notice
No,
it
we wouldn't
24
have
hours
the meeting on
ahead.
the 17th. We would just have notice that they've got this done, and then we would set up a meeting for, I think, the following week.
Okay. Director?
May I add one more thing? If
What
we
is your
can get this
preference?
done this weekend, Monday, Tuesday, whatever it is,
could have a
you have to
meeting.
have a lead time to set a meeting of 24 hours.
24 hours.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
24 hours to
And that
get an
could be
agenda posted.
overruled by an emergency meeting or something from the PG's office.
No, but if you let
Okay,
us know
we can do
Monday,
that, so
Tuesday.
we'll make it our intent to do it on Monday or sometime. This is opening weekend to Paradise. Mr. Sims is busy, and I've got horses running. I haven't talked to Rito, these guys here, but we'll do it as early as possible. And then we'll call you and say, we have something to report, and you can set the meeting or not set the meeting.
Perfect.
That's
We'll
fine.
try our hardest. On the good news front, this will be the first time Turf Paradise ever had high definition. Our first race, the other tracks have it, it's a commitment. But anyway, we will have, starting on
Can
the
we-
first day of our
can we
race.
get back to this
Yeah,
issue?
go ahead. All right.
Should make it.
Can we, so are you
So-
going to make a motion to table it
Yeah,
then, or?
Yeah, I move to table item B, the 21, at this point in time until we get further information.
Second.
Okay, so
All in
Commissioner,
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless?
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock?
Yes.
Okay, so this matter has been tabled until I get direction from, I guess the horsemen are going to notify us, or somebody will,
Right.
that you have had a meeting with Mr.
We have
Drury,
something to report.
and we will then schedule this for a special meeting
And
for a
this is
final decision.
probably a good time to remind everyone on this. Please contact the commission secretary. Do not send us emails. Everything needs to go through the commission secretary. She will then send it out to us if it's needed to be sent to us.
My email address, you get the emails for the agenda, so you have that, or you can call, and I'll be more than happy to give it to you then, too.
It's on your.
Yes, sir.
Notice. Okay.
Yes, sir.
We're good.
All right. Item 3, TP Racing LLP, request for approval of 2018 charity race date, Saturday, November 2nd, 2019, Friday, November 29th, 2019, and Saturday, November 30th, 2019. Anything from the department on these?
Just that they've put the packet together and it's been all taken a look at and it's all in order.
I move we approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Madam Secretary?
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless?
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock, excuse me, sorry.
Yes, that's all right.
Okay, motion carries. The charity race dates of November 2nd, November 29th, and November 30th have been approved.
Thank you. The next item is discussion items. D1, discussion of the status of simulcast horse racing import signals, HB 2547. I think we've had a lot of discussion already this morning on that.
Just a few more.
And I know the person who had signed up to speak on that has withdrawn for speaking, so I don't know if there's, I think everyone knows that we are looking to, enforce this. We're moving forward. Don't know if there's anything else further needed. Hearing none, we'll move on to Item D2, discussion of the status of Senator Farnsworth legislation on due process, SB 1144. And the person don't want to speak, right?
It's not necessary at this time.
Okay. Person that signed up to speak is not. Greg, do you have any updates or?
Not at this time.
Okay.
So,
All right. Moving forward, E, information reports, safety reports. Greg, now we'll make you talk.
There you go. Thank you. Staff has been out, and we're out every day looking at things, safety issues. I'll tackle the conditional permit items that you guys had back in April. As you know, the construction of the bridle path on the backside of Turf Project has taken place. It does not continue through to the actual track opening, but we covered that in the previous months. It's a work in progress, but it's making progress. HBPA and Turf are working together on making it more user-friendly. We found as soon as it was put in, a lot of people were driving on it and things of that nature, compacting it down. So they've done some things to make that more user-friendly, and it seems to be working well at this point in time. Training track, as you know, the improvement project happened over the summer. They've modified the inner rail to make it more uniform, and there is some issues on the outside fencing, but I'm sure we can take care of that at a different time. Staff has done an entire facility inspection. Gone through and just taken a look at most everything. I can give you some of the issues that we've seen that Turf Paradise is aware of, and they've been very cooperative. Test barn has a cooling unit that's out, so they're in need of fixing it, and they're doing that. There are some minor lighting issues. It's more bulb replacements and things like that you would have in any type of complex, and even in your home. Once the bulb burns out, we notify them and we let them know. All the vegetation trees are well kept. The oleanders on the north side are kept. We continually look for drainage issues through the entire complex. Potholes, we talk about that every month. They exist. There's been a lot of patching back there. Just yesterday I noticed when I was out there for the Horsemen's meeting, they had some patchwork being done. As they come up, we learn them and they get fixed. Overall, you know, we talk about this every year about the need to come up with a better system on patching out there, and we'll continue those talks. We haven't seen a lot of street sweeping activity, but we'll ask Turf Paradise as well to see what we can do about that. The trash and the manure pickup are on a very adequate level. There's been no complaints and things like that. Fire extinguishers, we've been out, we visited every fire extinguisher box. Commissioner Gray, we've taken a look at all of those. Turf Paradise has even given us our yearly pre-inspection report. So we're in good order on that. We will be on those, on top of it, month by month for you. Main track, starting gates, we've inspected it. No issues have been noted. Ambulance, equine ambulance, nothing. Emergency response vehicles, same thing. Track lighting looks fine. Warning system on the track is fine. The railings, we've actually done a walkthrough on the railings. I've done it with Leroy Guessman. There's some minor repairs. We're looking at having those be done. Some of them have been done. Other ones will get done eventually. Typically, we'll hear about anything that happens on that. Track looks to be in sensational shape at this point in time. We will encourage, and I'm sure Turf will continue this as far as the sending of the soil samples for testing, so the track surface will be maintained on a consistent level. Additionally, the watering on the turf course in a consistent manner, so it will be maintained. Grandstand clubhouse, although antiquated and old, we found no issues at this point in time and have no guest complaints as far as those issues. Some of the other issues, there has been some thefts in the south parking lot of the complex where the horse trailers are parked. We've met with the head of security at Turf Paradise, feel that they have taken steps to alleviate those issues and to hope that they will not occur in the future. Turf Paradise Management, a couple weeks ago, has reported that starting the season, all assistant starters will be wearing protective safety vests and helmets. We thank them. We know that that movement was started by Arizona Downs, and we appreciate that because that's certainly a safety matter. As far as catastrophic injuries, track has been open a month. We have had no catastrophic injuries either in training. That is a good sign. We've had one horse death due to colic in that month. As of we did last year, all horses entered a race will have pre-race exams. All horses that appear on a vet list in whatever state, staff will work with that jurisdiction to satisfy that state requirement before it can run. All race-related catastrophic injuries will be sent to Midwestern for necropsies. And once we receive those necropsies, the trainers will be asked to attend a necropsy review. Additionally, others associated with the horse, the vets, could be the grooms, we may ask them as well. These reviews have been pivotal in our effort to reduce catastrophic injuries, and we will continue that effort. Lastly, we hold equine wellness committee meetings, and I would encourage either one, all three of you, or all four of you, with Commissioner Coolidge. If you want to attend those, we will alert you to that, one at a time, please. The HPPA division staff, all three GMs from the tracks attend these, and it's a candid discussion about ways we can be committed to safety. And I think it's making a significant difference in the number of catastrophic injuries on our racetracks. And that is the report.
Okay. And, just kind of follow up, you guys, everybody has done a great job on the safety, and you got all three tracks working. I think Jay's already gone, but Arizona Downs, and Tucson, and Turf, you guys have done an amazing job working together on this. I'm hoping on these other items, you can do just as an amazing job to resolve these issues so we can do what is in the best interest of horse racing here in Arizona. Any further discussion? No. Budget report, Jason?
Chairman, Commissioners, Jason LaForce from staff. The department ended the first fiscal quarter at the end of last month. After reviewing the numbers in regards to revenue, cash, remaining budget, the department looks healthy to continue regulation throughout this fiscal year. There is little to no financial risk in the immediate and near term. So I'm happy to report that. The other item in regards to budget I mentioned in the last meeting was that we are formulating a recommendation to get a appropriation increase to fund another veterinarian to ensure the 100% pre-check. We're still working with the governor's office to formulate this recommendation, and we hope that will go successfully. Any questions?
No,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, committee reports, not to exceed 3 minutes. Arizona Greyhound Racing.
No, to report, Commissioner.
Thank you. Arizona Downs.
I think we've spoken enough.
Thanks, Ann.
County Fairs. I don't see Jay back there, so. Tucson Greyhound, none. I don't even see Alicia. She left. Turf Paradise.
We're good to open on Saturday, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. And, I did just want to tell you, I told you the other day when I was back there on the backside a few weeks ago, talking to everyone. At that point in time, there was not a single complaint. Everyone was excited and happy. Yeah, I was expecting to hear at least one complaint, and there's not a single one. It's a good job.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Optional Industry Stakeholder Association updates, Arizona Counties Racing Association, Arizona Quarter Horse Racing Association,
As I do report, thank you.
Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders Association,
Commissioners, Director Debbie Zimmerman, Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders. I'm happy to report that our sale is coming along very well this year. We have 130 head of horses. We have 107 yearlings, 3 race horses of age, 2 weanlings, and 18 broodmares. So with the bill passing, we feel that the broodmares came in, which was going to help us, help the industry and get back in a role here, we hope. So we want to thank everyone for your support. Thank you.
What's the date of the sale, Debbie?
November 14th. It's out at Queen Creek.
HBPA.
Commissioners, Director and staff, Leroy Guessman, the Arizona HBPA. I just want to say we are currently at around 1,150 horses have already showed up. And as was stated earlier, a lot of them are fit and ready to run compared to the years past, thanks to a lot of the Arizona people being able to race up at Arizona Downs. Entries went well for the first 3 days. I would like to thank Turf Paradise for getting the bridle path put in. I think once we had some struggles at first, as was mentioned, but I think by Greg, but we're working through those, and I think once it's 100% complete, it'll be a great addition. I want to say that the restrooms are, although they're, as Jerry would say, they're not the Hilton, but they are in the best shape I've seen them in the 4 years I've been here. And we are still working on our agreement that came from our arbitration, but one of the issues is that the HBPA is going to participate in helping with the cleaning, and so we hope to keep the restrooms in the condition they are currently for the workers back there for the whole season. Like Greg mentioned, the inner rail of the training track was done, and they've done some work on the turf course. The main track is in great shape. So we're all excited and anxious for Saturday to get here and start racing. I'll close with that for today.
Thank you.
All right. Drum roll, please. Jockeys Guild.
Harold here, Jockeys Guild, members of the board. I'd just like to say that I've grown to have a great appreciation for the state of Arizona, this wonderful state. And to see racing like it is at Bolito, the crowds and everyone working together, it's just makes me feel so good when I go there and see the students and racing. You know, the people coming to the races is so important, and to see it there. I know it's a short meet and weekends, but still, and to work with Jay this last year, and with the support of Greg, with getting a paramedic, an ambulance there after the meet started, that was big, just for them to step up to the plate. And my hope is, for this coming week, is they have a paramedic in the morning too, because it is as dangerous in the morning as it is in the afternoon. So, you know, I hear it all the time throughout the country that, you know, the safety of the jockey and the horse is paramount. But, and it's just I don't want to say it's just words, but when racetracks step up and do and show what they say they're doing, it just means so much. And the riders appreciate that. And the riders go the extra yard to promote this game, especially when management shows them that they care. So, and I'm seeing that in Arizona. And this summer at Arizona Downs, you know, I know Ann had her hands full just getting things going after all those years. Yavapai was closed. But to work with her, and we had weekly meetings. My guild reps would be in her office, and we accomplished so much. Just communication, and it was inspiring to see what she was doing. And to have Arizona Downs aboard, to me it's so important for the state to keep the horses and the people in the state. And you see it happening in Kentucky now, where whether it's Churchill buying now Turf Way, and Ellis Park now racing in the summers. Because with the shortage of horses, we need to keep everybody in this state, and it's you know, it's just the way it is. There's a lot of racing and not enough horses. Who would have thought that? But that's what's happening. So to keep everybody here, in as you see the entries, as they said, you know, this is Pope Fields, and because a lot has to do with because there's horses here. So again, my hat goes up to Arizona Downs for what they did this summer. I know there was a hiccup, and they had people step up to the plate to keep it going because they could see, you know, the good in it all. And Turf Paradise, working with Vince, and over the years, I know he does care, and it shows now with vets in the morning, and that's so important, the vet checks. Also with the helmets and the vests for the assistant starters, makes things so much safer. So there are some things that we need to address to accommodate these riders here at Turf Paradise, because, you know, the building's old, and the jocks room, that's their home away from home. So it's important that they're happy in the jocks room and that it's clean and sanitary, and so just to make it more accommodating, it means so much to these riders. So that's what I'm looking forward to, working with Turf Paradise also. And I appreciate the time. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We just got a couple more items on the agenda, but we do have to go back to our items for the executive session. I did see for a call to the public, there's one person here that did not sign up for a particular agenda item. Mike, is Mike still here? Did you want to speak, Mike? Because I'll do call to the public now.
Yeah, thanks. You know, pretty much everything. Mike Barrow, ATVA, Horseman, Barrow's Pizza, different. Anyway, long story.
It's good pizza.
Thank you, by the way. And I had never met you, Chairman, but I was the one that stepped up to help. Okay, so you're aware of that. You know, one thing, I mean, I'm listening back and forth to everything going on, and I appreciate it, you guys and the job you're doing, everybody here. I guess it's a struggle for me to see so much bickering between one another when we could all get together and prosper and have a wonderful, wonderful Arizona horse racing year after year. So that's my only dilemma, or my concern, is that we need to get together as a group and figure out a way where Turf Paradise doesn't get financially impacted, but Arizona Downs can thrive as well. And that, I think, listening to everybody today, that's the road we're on, and it feels right. And I appreciate all you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
We'd like to go ahead and move to item B1. Does anyone need to have an executive session for the Monarch Content Management LLC?
Camilla,
Oh, no.
No.
I have nothing to do with monitoring. We're on your agenda item. Did you want to have an executive session on that?
I don't know that it's absolutely necessary, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I don't know.
I'm hungry.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking for where's our pizza.
Yeah, I think, as you know, the oral argument is set for October 30th. That was my report.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Then the other one was for item 2, Sims versus Sims.
Camilla, anything to?
Do you think we need an executive session?
I will tell you that the new date to file the reply brief and the answering briefs with the Court of Appeals is now November 9th. So it did get moved about 40 days or so from the original deadline, which was last week, would have been last Monday. It is not, but if you want me to answer questions about the arguments and so forth, we would have to do it in executive session.
I can put it off.
Yeah, I don't have, and you don't need any guidance from us or anything right now. Okay, good. Oh, wow. What did I skip? Commission reports. F, summary of current events affecting the Arizona Racing Commission. Only commission members or the director may report.
Well, we got one, and we know what it is. Hopefully, we'll hear early next week
Yep.
on the answer.
Yeah, that would be the only identification of matters to be placed on a future agenda, once we hear back on that. Announcements, the next regular Arizona Racing Commission meeting is tentatively scheduled for 10 a.m. on Thursday, November 14th, 2019, here in this very same room. Before I look for a motion to adjourn, I just want to remind everyone, we got a new season starting. Let's all try to work together. Let's show the public we care about each other, we care about ourselves, and we care about our animals. Let's show them we are strong and proud and deserve their trust. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it then.
Okay, so I'll give Mr. Garay the second and Mr. Lawless the motion. Commissioner Garay?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless?
Yes.
Commissioner Garay?
Yes.
This meeting is adjourned at 1:32 p.m. 1:32 p.m. 1:32 p.m. 1:32 p.m. 1:32 p.m. 1:32 p.m.